Hi everyone, welcome to Drive to Run. This video highlights the differences between the various trims of the 2022 Kia Sorento and which ones I think provide the most value. Before we dive into the specifics, some high-level pricing information. The 2022 Sorento starts at $30,805 for a base LX front-wheel drive model, all the way up to $44,405 for an X-Line SX Prestige all-wheel drive model. All of those prices include the mandatory destination charge. As always, my analysis assumes you're paying MSRP, so if your local dealer is charging markups on particular trims, you may need to reconsider which one gives you the most value for money, or better yet, expand your search and find a dealer that isn't charging the markup. Some of you may have noticed that the prior table didn't include the Sorento plug-in hybrid versions. That's because there are too many buyer-specific variables for me to assess whether or not it's a good value. However, to briefly touch on these, the Sorento plug-in hybrid is only offered on the SX and SX Prestige trims. They come standard with all-wheel drive, get 32 all-electric miles before utilizing the gas engine, and in base form cost about $5,000 more than their gas-only all-wheel drive trim mates. Given the federal tax credit is $6,587 for both, not even taking into account any state incentives, on paper, they are a good deal. However, you should know that you can only tow 2,000 pounds versus 3,500 pounds in their gas-only versions, and they also don't come standard with a panoramic sunroof. That's an extra $1,300 on the plug-in version. So if you option the panoramic sunroof, then the federal tax credit basically makes the cost equal between the gas-only and plug-in hybrid versions. One last thing of note, the SX Prestige plug-in hybrid can come with blue leather, something that's definitely more unique if you're into that sort of thing. Now, for the rest of the powertrain info, we still have another 3 to cover. The LX and S gas-only models come with a naturally aspirated 2.5-liter 4-cylinder, whereas the EX gas-only trims and above come with a 2.5-liter turbo. The combined MPG is actually very similar between the two. In some cases it's the same, in some cases the turbo drops the combined MPG by 1, but that's pretty impressive considering the extra power the turbo provides. Also note that when you get the turbo engine, your towing capacity increases from 2,000 pounds to 3,500 pounds. Now, the hybrid powertrain is only available on the S and EX trims, and you can get them with or without all-wheel drive. I'll cover pricing of both the all-wheel drive and hybrid powertrains when I break down each specific trim, because there are some idiosyncrasies in pricing differences with them, which you may be able to see in the table right now. But from a hybrid standpoint, it's important to note that they improve combined MPG by about 40% compared to their gas-only counterparts. So, starting things off with the LX, it only comes in a 7-passenger configuration with a black cloth interior. It does at least come standard with alloy wheels and Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, but it does not come with blind spot monitoring or the ability to connect your Sorento to Kia's phone app to remotely start, lock, and unlock your vehicle. All-wheel drive is an option for only $1,800. That's an important number compared to the S trim, which costs $2,000 more to get all-wheel drive. Speaking of the S trim, in all-wheel drive form, it starts at $2,800 more than the LX. What do you get for that $2,800? Quite a bit. You get 18-inch rims, roof rails, a larger center infotainment screen, smart key access with remote start, dual zone climate, rear parking sensors, a power driver's seat, heated front seats, Kia's Syntex synthetic leather, and blind spot alert. I think all of that, plus a few more minor upgrades, is a pretty good value. You can option a panoramic sunroof for $1,300 more as well, if that's important to you. Now, when we start talking all-wheel drive, this is where things get a bit trickier. On the S, in order to get all-wheel drive, you also have to get Kia's X-Line package. That means all-wheel drive costs $2,000 more on the S compared to only $1,800 on the LX. What else do you get for that additional $200 upcharge? black rims, and some other exterior styling tweaks primarily to the bumpers. So getting the X-Line is fine from a value standpoint on this trim, but that'll shift when we get to the EX trim. Now for the S Hybrid, it costs $1,700 more than a gas-only S in front-wheel drive form. For all-wheel drive, however, the upcharge is only $1,500 more because they don't force you into the X-Line package to get all-wheel drive. A few things to note if you do go for the hybrid. Sorento hybrids only come in 6-passenger configuration, so you'll have to get the second row captain's chairs instead of a second row bench seat. You also can't option a panoramic sunroof, and your wheels decrease to 17-inch alloys. According to the EPA, the average driver will save $600 per year on fuel getting a hybrid, so your payback time is around 3 years. Next up is the EX trim. The EX front-wheel drive gas model costs $3,100 more than an S front-wheel drive gas model. The big difference here is that with the EX, you get the turbo engine standard, which gives you 3,500 pounds of towing capacity and an 8-speed dual-clutch transmission. From here on up, from a trim level standpoint, Sorentos will only come in the 6-passenger second row captain's chair configuration. What else do you get for that $3,100? Fog lights, a power liftgate, and Kia's semi-autonomous driving tech. There's also one more difference that kind of cracked me up. On EX trims and above, the Sorento's forward collision avoidance assist includes cyclist detection, whereas the LX and S seem to only come with pedestrian detection. So if you're a cyclist, I guess you're hoping people only buy the EX trims and above. Anyway, back to features. You aren't really getting all that much by stepping up to the EX trim, so you really have to decide if the more powerful engine is worth that $3,100 upcharge while also losing a seat. Now moving to the all-wheel drive version of the EX, this is another one where Kia is forcing you into the X-Line package. However, this time, the upcharge is a much higher $3,700 compared to the front-wheel drive EX. Now I'm sure Kia would try to justify that price by saying the EX X-Line comes standard with 20-inch rims and a panoramic sunroof, but why force people into those things just to get all-wheel drive? Ultimately, I'd only recommend the EX X-Line all-wheel drive if you absolutely need all-wheel drive and you need the additional towing capacity to 3,500 pounds. For the hybrid version of the EX, that one costs a remarkably paltry $600 more than the front-wheel drive gas model. A lot of what's driving that small upcharge is because you're moving from the turbo powertrain to the hybrid powertrain in the EX, instead of from the naturally aspirated powertrain to the hybrid powertrain like you would in the S trim. So a better comparison is probably to the S hybrid, and comparing to that, for $2,000 more, the EX hybrid comes with the same extra features I mentioned while talking about the gas-only EX, but you also get forward and reverse parking sensors. At the end of the day, I don't think fog lights, a power liftgate, some semi-autonomous driving tech, and parking sensors are worth the $2,000 upcharge. All-wheel drive on the EX hybrid costs an additional $2,300 versus an extra $1,800 on the S hybrid. On the EX hybrid, when you get all-wheel drive, you also get larger 19-inch rims, which I suppose is how they're justifying charging more. For the SX trim, it costs $2,800 more in gas-only front-wheel drive guys than the EX. For that $2,800, you get 20-inch rims, a panoramic sunroof, a power passenger seat, and nicer exterior LED lighting. Since the panoramic roof is a $1,300 option on the EX front-wheel drive, then you're basically paying $1,500 for 2-inch larger rims and the rest of the features. Personally, I don't think that's worth it. For all-wheel drive, Kia does let you option it without the X-Line package for only $1,800. When you do that, the SX all-wheel drive costs $900 more than the X-Line EX all-wheel drive, which already comes standard with the 20-inch rims and panoramic sunroof. So you're essentially paying $900 more for a power passenger seat and nicer exterior LED lighting. Again, not worth it to me. The SX doesn't come in just a traditional hybrid powertrain. you have to go with the plug-in hybrid, which I covered earlier in the video. Finally, the SX Prestige. That starts at $2,900 more than the SX, but you get a lot more features for that amount, including proper leather seats, ventilated front seats, a more adjustable driver's seat with memory function, heated second row seats, a heated steering wheel, an upgraded 12-speaker Bose system. Note, this is the only trim that gets you an upgraded speaker system. All the others stick with only 6 speakers, a 360-degree camera, and last but not least, a digital dash with blind spot view monitors. The blind spot view monitor is an awesome feature that is currently only offered on Hyundai and Kia products, I believe, and it will show in the dash a live camera feed of the right or left side of your vehicle whenever you turn on each respective blinker. Quite frankly, all of this content is worth more than $2,900 in my opinion, especially when you consider what little you get for the $2,800 upgrading from the EX to the SX. Now, to get all-wheel drive on the SX Prestige, Kia is again forcing you into the X-Line package, so the upcharge is $2,000, which, as we covered, isn't the worst upcharge they've done, and you also can get a trim-exclusive rust leather interior for $200 more. So in summary, of all the trims offered on the 2022 Sorento, here's where I've settled. I generally wouldn't recommend the LX unless you must have cloth or are looking for the cheapest way into an all-wheel drive Sorento. I think the S is the sweet spot trim in any form, front-wheel drive, all-wheel drive, or hybrid. The EX becomes a little harder to justify, but if you need the additional towing capacity or like the additional performance of the turbo engine, it's not a bad value. However, the EX all-wheel drive is not a good value in my opinion. Forcing people to get a panoramic sunroof and 20-inch rims just isn't cool in my book. Also, since the main reasons for stepping up to the EX are towing or performance, it just doesn't make sense to then get rid of both of those potential benefits by selecting the EX hybrid. I would absolutely skip the SX, especially since you can option an EX to nearly be an SX for less. You just can't get a power passenger seat or the nicer exterior LED lighting, but that's not enough to justify getting an SX. Finally, the SX Prestige. I think it is a good value for all the upgrades you get within that trim. So if your budget allows for it and you like the additional features, I think it's a perfectly reasonable trim to go with. Personally, I'd like to see Kia offer one hybrid model and one turbo model with the 7-passenger configuration. The fact that once you pick either of those two, you're forced into a 6-passenger setup is disappointing. I'm someone who will always choose to max out utility over anything, particularly when you're purchasing a vehicle in the non-luxury CUV SUV category. But particularly for the Sorento, given the limited space both in and behind the third row, I think most people will have it folded down a majority of the time anyway, which in the 6-passenger setup means you now only have a 4-passenger vehicle most of the time. Also, it's when your vehicle is loaded with passengers and or cargo that you'd want the more powerful turbo engine. So the fact that you can only get the 7-passenger with the base engine doesn't make sense to me. I think Kia has a lot of opportunity to improve here and simplify the Sorento's trim offerings in the future, and hopefully they'll do so. If you found this video useful, please subscribe and feel free to leave comments or ask any questions below. Thanks for watching.